Time now for an in-depth look at the market news this afternoon, and for that I'm joined on the line by Dr. Sei-wan, professor of economics at Ewha Womans University. Good afternoon, Professor. Thanks for coming on.
Good afternoon, Devin.
Well, data show Korea, as we just heard, shed around 400,000 jobs in September compared to a year earlier, and the number of people employed has been falling since March. Tell us about these numbers, Professor, and your outlook.
As coronavirus pandemic shock continues, a decline in the number of the employed also continues, starting from March of this year. In September, Korean economy lost about 400,000 jobs, and unemployment rate roses by 0.5% to 3.6%. Particularly, the number of young workers, temporary workers, and workers in accommodation and food service decreased in larger scale. So these workers are the hardest hit people by coronavirus pandemic.
Well, South Korea's population is projected to start shrinking next year. So this means a lot of potential changes to things like military service, pensions, and so on. What kind of changes do you think we need?
Korean economy is experiencing the most rapid increase in old population in the world. And at the same time, the birth rate is the lowest in the world, with less than one kid per fertile female. And naturally, total population begins to decrease from next year, and it changes everything in Korea, like number of college students, number of military soldiers, and younger generations heavier support on older generation. In the short run, Korea will have to have more immigration from foreign countries to avoid rapid population decrease, but in the long run, there should be more effective full-scale population policies.
Well, turning to the stock market, Wall Street was down for a third straight session on Thursday, weighed down by jobs numbers in the U.S. Also, the fact that Europe now has overtaken America in the number of daily cases of COVID-19. What's the story in the global markets?
Along with strong resurgence of coronavirus in Eurozone, shutdowns and lockdowns are intensified in Europe, particularly in UK and France. And in US, unexpectedly, the number of unemployment claims increased in a large scale in early October. So all these gloomy situation on coronavirus pandemic decreased US market and European markets. Dow Jones Industrial decreased by 0.1%. And Nasdaq decreased also by 0.5% in yesterday's market.
Now here in Korea, the Kospi was sharply lower today too, though it did start out a little higher in the morning. What happened in the local market?
Domestic market decreased today due to increasing concerns on shutdowns in major economies like U.S. and Eurozone. Kospi decreased by 0.8% today, and Kosdaq also decreased by 1.3% today. In both domestic markets, foreign investors and domestic institutional investors have led the market with big sales.
And now the Bank of Korea has released data on exports showing that the price of exports has continued to fall since February, but the price of imports also falling for a third month in a row. Tell us about that, and what do you make of these numbers?
According to Bank of Korea, export price decreased by 0.3%, and import price also decreased by 1.3% in September. Broadly speaking, the major reason for decreasing export and import prices are related to global trade shrink over coronavirus pandemic. But another two major seasonal factors are appreciating Korean won or decreasing $1 exchange rate, and oil price decreases. $1 exchange rate decreased by almost 1% in September, and international oil price also dropped by 6% in the same month.
Yeah, the exchange rate certainly has come down quite a lot since the peak in the pandemic. All right, Professor, we'll have to leave it there for today. Thanks so much for sharing your insights.
Thank you very much.